markets do you trade? And apart from individual shares, do you deal in forex or other instruments?
Well, I've always done equities. That's the way I train myself, particularly in balance sheet analysis and probability. Occasionally, I make a foray into forex or index trading, but rarely, although I have made money out of index trading, the real reason for that is that I made about £1 million on the run-up to the Americans crossing the border into Iraq during the Iraq War, and then I just took the profit, and I haven't traded on that scale generally for a long time. I used to trade FTSE. I used to trade FTSE at the rate of £1,000 a point, which is quite a lot, but I don't these days. I'm too old for it. Because really, at £1,000 a point, you can chew through $500,000 in a day, and certainly you wouldn't be surprised to win or lose 50,000 in a day. And I don't do that nowadays. And one reason why I don't is I don't have any belief that I would be the richer as a result. If I were to believe that I would be, I would, no doubt, but I don't.
And you did touch on it earlier, but just talk about your time frames, you know, and do you take short-term punts?
Oh yes, certainly. For instance, say I think a stock is cheap, I'm quite happy to buy it more heavily than really I should, and then as the stock moves in my favour, I'm quite happy to lighten up fairly early on, perhaps inside a day or two, because I thought the share price was cheap. I went in very heavily, but you've got to take the view as to what you hold in the longer term, and anybody who doesn't take that view is foolish.
Good point. Yeah, there's apparently you've got positions that you've kept open for years. Is that right?
Yes, I have. Yes, I've got none of those at the moment, which are of particular interest. But I certainly, if you like, take the reverse Buffett view that if something is wrong in a stock, one to persist with the matter until the wrongness has come to light. Of course, there's just the possibility that the stock was all right in the first place, in which case one has incurred all the expenses of staying short, not for months, but for years, only to lose money. But in the main, the positions which I have held for a long, long time have come right, and I believe it's worth staying with them. And I think that's an important attitude, really much more than other people. But that, I suppose, is a consequence of being opinionated.
What do you use to trade? What mediums? Yeah. You mentioned you got into spread betting because of greed.
Yes, that's perfectly true. Now, of course, at the time, there were two other factors, one of which remains, which is that the profits would be free of tax, and one didn't have to fill in a tax return. I mean, filling in a tax return like mine is no joke. There's a lot of work involved in it, which I'm delighted to say my wife attends to, but even so, it's a lot of work. And of course, the other thing is that with spread betting, you cut out stamp duty. Well, that benefit has extended now to the alternative investment market generally, but stamp duty is a big expense, and people say it isn't, are simply stupid, and therefore spread betting in getting round that is much to commend it. I know there are people who say, well, I'd rather take stamp-free positions through contract for difference, but then of course there's the problem of filling in the tax returns. To me, spread betting done with reliable, honest spread bettors is a much better way of approaching matters. At least that is how I approach it.
This reference to greed.
Well, if I may point out the obvious, if you run a business without being greedy for profit, i.e. seeking to bank profit, there is the real risk that your mindset will cause you to run the business at break-even or loss. A break-even doesn't work if you wish to withdraw money to maintain your household, so that's not an option. And loss-making isn't an option for obvious reasons anyway. So I put it to you, making a profit, which I slightly glamorized, if I can put it that way, by the term greed, is really the only way the matter can be approached.